I gave up my home to help my son. Then his bride told me the greatest gift would be if I vanished. Amanda's words weren't shouted, but they cut through me sharper than any scream could have. The greatest gift for our wedding is if you disappeared from our family. She said it with a smile, like she was commenting on the weather. Behind her, the white dress hung perfectly pressed on a garment rack. The irony wasn't lost on me, her pristine image standing in contrast to the ugliness of her words. My son Michael didn't even flinch. He just nodded, as if this was normal. I stood frozen, clutching the casserole dish I'd brought over. It was supposed to be a small celebration before the big day. A family dinner. I thought we were going to laugh, share memories, maybe cry a little happy tears. Instead, I felt my heart sink. The worst part? Michael didn't look at me. Not once. My only child, the boy I'd raised with every ounce of love I had, couldn't even meet my eyes while his fiancé told me I was unwanted. I realized in that moment, I was already gone to him. But let me give you some context before we jump to the ending. Because if you're watching this, you're probably wondering, how did it get this bad? And why was I standing in that kitchen like an uninvited stranger? 3 years ago, everything was different. Back then, Michael and Amanda had been newly engaged. They were young, hopeful, and just starting their lives. The only problem? They couldn't afford the kind of house Amanda insisted on. She wanted dream home or nothing. At the time, I was still living in the Victorian home Robert and I had restored. Every room told our story: hard work, late nights, laughter, and love. It wasn't just wood and plaster. It was our life built brick by brick. After Robert passed, that house became both a comfort and a weight. It was filled with memories, but also emptiness. So when Michael came to me, explaining how they needed help with a down payment, I convinced myself it was time to let go. I sold the house, the home where my husband and I had poured our sweat and love. I handed over a large portion of the profit to Michael and Amanda so they could have the start they wanted. I told myself it was a gift of love. Amanda had smiled then too, but it wasn't the same smile. Back then, it seemed grateful, though looking back, I think it was satisfaction. She got what she wanted. And Michael? He said, "Thanks, Mom. We couldn't have done this without you." And now, 3 years later, in the very kitchen of that house I helped them buy, she was telling me the best gift would be if I disappeared. I had no idea in that moment how far things would spiral, or that losing my home was only the beginning of what I would lose. Looking back, I realize Amanda didn't just wake up one morning and decide to erase me. It was gradual, like boiling water. At first, it felt like little things, easy to brush off. But soon, those little things became patterns. When they first moved into the new house, I tried to be helpful. I brought over groceries, dropped off meals, even came by with cleaning supplies like I used to when Michael was in college. I thought I was being supportive. Amanda called it smothering. "We need space," she'd tell me, her voice sugary but sharp underneath. Michael would nod along, barely saying a word. It hurt, but I told myself they were newly engaged, finding their rhythm. So I stepped back. Holidays were the next change. For Michael's entire life, Thanksgiving had been at my table. After Robert died, it became even more important. I needed tradition to hold on to. But suddenly, Amanda announced they'd be hosting Thanksgiving at their house. It just makes sense now that we're homeowners. I showed up with a homemade pie, only to see Amanda had ordered everything catered. The look she gave me when I tried to put my pie on the dessert table still stings. She whispered, "We don't need that, but thanks." My pie never left the kitchen counter. Christmas wasn't much better. Michael always came with me to the Christmas Eve service at church, even when he was in college. That year, Amanda said she had family traditions of her own. I spent Christmas Eve alone, staring at the empty chair where Michael used to sit. Every time I tried to talk to him, to ask if something was wrong, Amanda's voice was always in the background. We're busy. He doesn't have time. Or the worst one. Michael doesn't need to be tied down with your problems. My problems? I wanted to scream. My only problem was loving my son and wanting to be part of his life. But Amanda had a way of making me feel like a burden, like I was the unwelcome guest in my own child's world. The final blow came when they got their dog. I love animals, always have. I offered to help walk him during their long work days. Amanda laughed. No offense, but we don't want you spoiling him the way you spoiled Michael. That one cut deep. I spoiled Michael? I called it raising him, loving him, making sure he never went without after Robert passed. Spoiling? No. Loving? Absolutely. By the time the wedding rolled around, I was already on the outside. I was invited, yes, but every detail screamed Amanda's vision. Her family sat in the front row while I was tucked quietly off to the side. I smiled for photos, but inside, I felt erased. And yet, I stayed quiet. I told myself it was Michael's happiness that mattered. But now, standing in that kitchen with her telling me to disappear, I realized my silence had only fed her cruelty. The morning of the wedding should have felt joyful. Instead, I woke up with a pit in my stomach. I ironed my dress carefully, choosing the navy blue one Michael once said made me look elegant. I wanted to be proud, wanted to believe I still belonged. When I arrived at the venue, Amanda's family was everywhere, laughing, taking photos, bustling around with matching outfits. I stood at the edge of the room, clutching my small handbag, trying not to look out of place. It was their world. I was just a visitor. Amanda swept past me in her gown, trailed by bridesmaids. She didn't even acknowledge me. One of her cousins whispered loudly, "Who's that?" Another shrugged. Probably just some relative. My heart sank. Some relative. Not the woman who had raised the groom. Michael was busy too, surrounded by groomsmen and Amanda's father. When our eyes finally met, I expected at least a smile. Instead, he gave me a polite nod, like I was one of the guests. A stranger. My own son, reduced to formality. The ceremony itself was beautiful, I can't lie. The flowers, the music, the vows, it was picture perfect. But every detail screamed Amanda's design. Even the seating chart had placed me far from the action, tucked behind distant relatives and old family friends. I strained to see as my son said, "I do." I tried to hold it together, but inside I felt like I was watching him slip away for good. He wasn't mine anymore. He wasn't even himself. At the reception, Amanda made her grand toast. She thanked her parents for their endless support, her friends for their unwavering love, even the vendors for making her vision come true. Not once did she mention me. Not even a single word about the down payment that had bought this very dream. Then came the moment that broke me. Amanda stood in the middle of the room, raised her glass, and said with that same plastic smile, "And to Michael, thank you for choosing me over everything else. Always remember it's just us now. No distractions, no baggage." The room laughed and cheered, but I knew exactly what she meant. She was talking about me. She was making it clear that I was the baggage, that my place in Michael's life was officially gone. Michael raised his glass too, smiling at her. He didn't look at me. He didn't say my name. He didn't defend me. I slipped out before dessert. Nobody noticed. Nobody stopped me. I walked alone to my car, heels clicking against the pavement, fighting back tears that refused to wait. As I sat there, staring at the steering wheel, I whispered to myself, "Robert, I hope you can't see this. Because if you could, your heart would be breaking too." I drove home in silence, realizing I had truly lost my son that day. Or maybe I had lost him long before, and the wedding just sealed it. After the wedding, things didn't get better. If anything, they got worse. I thought maybe once the excitement was over, We'd fall into a rhythm, occasional Sunday dinners, phone calls, holidays together. That's how family works, right? But I was wrong. Weeks turned into months, and the silence grew louder. Michael rarely called. If he did, the conversations were clipped, rushed. Amanda always seemed to be in the background, chiming in or ending the call early. It was as if my voice wasn't welcome in their home anymore. I tried to hold on. I'd send texts with simple things. "How's work?" or "Thinking of you today." Sometimes Michael would reply with a one-word answer. Other times there was nothing. I told myself he was busy, but in my heart I knew Amanda had built a wall, and Michael had chosen to stand behind it. Holidays became unbearable. Thanksgiving came, and I cooked enough food for 2 days, hoping maybe Michael and Amanda would stop by. They never did. Christmas was lonelier. I mailed them a gift, hand-knit scarves like I used to make for Michael as a boy. Weeks later, I saw them crumpled in the back seat of Amanda's car, tags still attached. I began to wonder what I had done so wrong. Was I too present? Too willing to help? Or was my only sin loving my son more than Amanda could stand? The real breaking point came about a year later. I'd been invited, well, more like summoned, over to their house. Amanda said they wanted to talk about boundaries. My stomach churned the whole drive there, but I told myself maybe it was a chance to fix things. When I walked into the kitchen, Amanda was waiting, her arms folded. Michael leaned against the counter, avoiding my eyes. Behind them, hanging neatly on the door frame, was Amanda's wedding dress. I thought it was strange she still had it displayed, like a trophy. Amanda's smile didn't reach her eyes. "We've been thinking," she said slowly. "The truth is, the greatest gift you can give us is distance. Honestly, the best gift would be if you disappeared from our family." Her words hit me like a slap. My breath caught in my throat. I glanced at Michael, praying he would step in, say something, defend me. But he only nodded in agreement. He couldn't even look at me. I had come expecting a conversation. Instead, I was told my existence was the problem, that my presence in their lives was unwanted, unneeded, and unwelcome. I stood there, clutching the casserole dish I'd brought, the warmth of it seeping into my hands while the rest of me went cold. Amanda's smile stayed fixed, polished, practiced. Michael stayed silent. That was the moment it all became clear. They didn't just want space. They wanted me gone. I didn't argue. I didn't beg. I didn't even ask why. I just set the casserole dish on the counter with a quiet thud and said the only words I could muster: "Enjoy your dinner." Then I walked out of that house, the house my sacrifice had bought. The cool night air hit me like a wave. I sat in my car for a long moment, hands gripping the steering wheel, my chest tight with something between grief and fury. I had never felt so small, so unwanted, so discarded. My son, the boy I had carried, fed, raised, had nodded along while his wife erased me like chalk on a sidewalk. On the drive home, memories flooded my mind. Michael's first steps, his high school graduation, Robert and I clapping so hard at his college ceremony. All of it had been for him. Every late night, every penny saved, every compromise I'd made, it had all been to give Michael a chance at happiness. And now, I was the obstacle. When I got home, the silence was deafening. No Robert to hold me, no Michael to reassure me. Just me, 4 walls, and the echo of Amanda's voice telling me I wasn't welcome in my own family. I curled up in bed and cried in a way I hadn't since Robert's funeral. But here's the thing about hitting rock bottom. You either stay there, or you push off and rise. The next morning, I woke up with swollen eyes but a hardened resolve. If Amanda wanted me gone, fine. I would disappear. Not in weakness, but in strength. I stopped calling. I stopped texting. I stopped trying to wedge myself into a space where I clearly wasn't wanted. If Michael wanted to reach out, he knew where to find me. And if he didn't, Well, that would be his loss, not mine. I threw myself into rebuilding. I joined a local gardening club, something I'd always wanted to do but never had time for. I volunteered at the library, met new friends, and even started taking a pottery class. For the first time in years, I was living for me, not for someone else's approval. And something strange happened. The more I focused on my own life, the lighter I felt. I still missed Michael, of course. A part of me always would. But I wasn't suffocating under the weight of rejection anymore. I was free. I thought Amanda had taken everything from me. But in a twisted way, she had given me something unexpected: perspective. By forcing me out, she'd pushed me back into myself. And I was rediscovering that I was stronger than I had ever been. Still, I had no idea then how quickly Amanda and Michael's perfect little world would begin to unravel. And when it did, they would come running back, straight to the woman they'd so carelessly discarded. It started with whispers. A neighbor from their street mentioned that Amanda had quit her job after clashing with her boss. Then I heard Michael's company was downsizing, and he was on the chopping block. I didn't go looking for these details. They just floated to me, as gossip tends to do. Months later, the whispers became news. Amanda and Michael had put the house on the market, the same house I had sacrificed my Victorian home to give them. Amanda's dream home. I drove by once quietly and saw the for sale sign staked into the lawn like a gravestone. It hurt, yes, but it also felt inevitable. You can't build a future on arrogance and cruelty. Sooner or later, it all collapses. Then came the phone call. My number lit up with Michael's name. For a moment, my heart raced. A part of me, the mother in me, still longed to hear his voice, to believe he was calling because he missed me. But when I answered, his tone was different, hesitant, almost rehearsed. "Hi, Mom. Amanda and I were wondering if we could come by. We've been going through a lot and, well, we could use some help." There it was. Not love, not reconciliation, need. After years of silence, after telling me to disappear, they wanted me back because their world had crumbled. I took a long breath. "I'm sorry, Michael," I said quietly, "but I can't give you what you're looking for. You made it clear where I stood in your life. I respected that, and I've built a new life since then." Silence, then a shaky, "So that's it? You're just done with us?" I almost laughed at the irony. Amanda had once told me to disappear, and now they were stunned to find I had. "No, Michael," I replied. "I'm not done. I'm living. The difference is, I'm finally living for me." He tried again, but his voice cracked. I could hear Amanda in the background, hissing something I couldn't quite make out. I ended the call gently, wishing him well, but making it clear. I was not their safety net. When I hung up, a strange peace washed over me. For the first time in years, I felt whole. They could beg, they could regret, they could curse my name, but I no longer carried the weight of their approval. I went out to my garden that evening, the sun dipping low, the air cool against my skin. As I watered the roses, I thought of Robert. "You'd be proud," I whispered. I didn't let them break me. Amanda had wanted me gone. She had wanted me erased. Instead, I had grown stronger, rooted deeper, like the roses I tended. And now, when they looked back at what they had lost, they would see me, not as a victim, but as a woman who refused to disappear. If you've made it this far, go ahead and hit the like button, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments.